All right, so today we're going to dive deep into the work of Jim Jarmusch.
Oh, yeah. Great pick.
The, American indie filmmaker.
Yeah.
Whose style you always hear described as, like,
right.
poetic, but it's, like, more than just a feeling, right?
Way more.
Like, how do we actually pin that down? And thankfully, we've got some sources to work with today.
We do.
To kind of unpack
It'll
this.
take time.
So we've got this academic paper that analyzes his films using this concept called cinema of poetry.
Uh-huh.
Have you heard of this?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's from Pier Paolo Pasolini.
Oh, wow.
The Italian filmmaker.
Okay, so we're going from
American indie
to, like, Italian neorealism.
I know, right? Pretty interesting.
Okay, so I'm intrigued, but what is this cinema of poetry thing?
Yeah, so basically Pasolini...
It sounds very highbrow.
It is, a little bit. He was really pushing the boundaries of what film could be. You know, he thought it could be so much more than just stories. He saw it as this visual language using metaphors, symbolism, all that stuff to make meaning.
So it's like poetry, but with images instead of words.
Exactly. And he believed film could get to our emotions. And subconscious in a way that, like, just talking can't.
So Jarmusch is trying to make us feel something through the visuals, not just tell us a story.
Yeah, you got it. And the paper argues that he is really good at it.
Okay, I like it.
We've got other sources, too, that talk about how he does it.
Oh, perfect.
Like all the stylistic choices and all.
Okay, let's break it down. What are some of the things that make a Jarmusch film so different from, like, a Michael Bay movie?
Oh, man. Total opposite ends of the spectrum.
Right.
Okay, so first thing, minimalism.
Okay.
Sparse dialogue,
right.
Long takes, and a real focus on those tiny details in how people interact.
You're not going to see any explosions in a Jarmusch film.
Definitely not. Unless it's like a super slow motion artsy explosion.
Right.
That's like a metaphor for something.
Exactly. And of course, we can't forget about the music.
Oh, the music. Don't even get me started. The soundtracks are incredible.
Yeah, they're legendary.
He's so deliberate with his music choices.
Yeah.
And they really become like this huge part of the whole mood of the film.
They do.
You put it all together and you get a totally unique visual and emotional thing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like its own world.
Completely different from Hollywood.
Totally.
Okay, so we've got this cinema of poetry idea.
Right.
We've got Jarmusch, who's already sounding pretty artsy.
For sure.
But, like, how does it actually play out on screen? What's the connection?
So the paper digs into this by looking at a certain kind of character that pops up a lot in his films.
Oh, okay.
They call it the wandering hero.
The wandering hero?
Yeah, and these are characters that are often outsiders, kind of emotionally detached, and looking at the world with this sense of, alienation.
That's interesting.
Like, I don't know, a knight errant. But in the modern world, maybe without the horse.
Yeah, the classic Jarmusch anti-hero. I'm starting to see how this all fits together.
It's cool, right? And so to really illustrate this, the paper looks at 3 films. Ghost Dog, The Way of the Samurai, which is from 1999, Broken Flowers from 2005, and Patterson from 2016.
Got it.
Each of these films features a wandering hero who's dealing with all these big questions about identity, purpose, like their place in the world.
So what are these wanderers actually doing in these films? They can't just be wandering around, right? There's got to be more to it than that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Each film tackles these themes in its own way.
Okay.
So, like, for example, in Ghost Dog, we've got Forrest Whitaker playing this hitman for the mob.
Okay.
But here's the twist. He finds guidance in the samurai code.
Interesting.
Like, lives by himself on a rooftop, takes care of pigeons, follows this strict moral code.
So he's a hitman with a conscience. That's definitely not your typical mobster movie.
It's so Jarmusch, right? He's taking this familiar genre and turning it on its head. It's like he's exploring how someone can find meaning and order in a world that often feels really chaotic and meaningless.
Right. That makes sense.
And then you've got Broken Flowers with Bill Murray.
Okay, I love him.
Who plays this aging Don Juan who gets this letter saying he might have a son he never knew about.
Oh, wow.
So he sets off on this road trip
to
reconnect with all these old flames.
So interesting.
Searching for answers, trying to figure out his past.
So he's wandering through his past, literally and figuratively, trying to piece together his life.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's Patterson, which I honestly think is like Jarmusch's love letter to poetry.
Oh, that's a good one.
It stars Adam Driver, and he plays this bus driver, also named Patterson.
Wait, so the character and the town have the same name?
Yep. It's all very meta.
I love it.
So he lives this simple, routine life in Paterson, New Jersey, and finds comfort in writing poetry.
Okay.
He finds beauty in these ordinary things.
Oh, I love that. It's about finding those little moments of beauty in the everyday, even in a place that might seem, on the surface, pretty mundane.
Exactly. He's a wanderer in a way.
Yeah.
But his journey is more internal. He finds meaning through creativity, not just through action.
I can definitely see how each of these characters fits that wandering hero archetype. They're all searching for something, whether it's meaning, connection, or a sense of self. But how does this tie back to cinema of poetry? Where does that really come into play?
Right. So remember how Pasolini talked about a combined point of view? It's how the director uses both the subjective elements, like what the character's thinking, and the objective tools like the camera work to shape what the film means. It's like the director is the poet, picking each word and image to evoke something specific.
So the director's vision is like a filter through which we experience the whole film.
Exactly. And Jarmusch is amazing at this. There's this beautiful scene in Paterson where the main character's poems are literally like layered over the film.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
So you're seeing his thoughts and feelings like right there on screen.
That's taking show don't tell to a whole new level. It's not just dialogue. The visuals are doing so much of the heavy lifting.
I know, right? It's Jarmusch at his most poetic.
Yeah.
You're in the character's world, seeing it through his eyes, and the images are just as important as any words.
That's fascinating. So we're seeing how he uses these poetic techniques to build these layered stories and characters. But is he also saying something bigger?
Yeah.
You know, about the world we live in?
That's a great question. And the answer is yes, he totally is.
Okay, good.
He's not just interested in aesthetics.
Right.
He's also a sharp observer of American society. And his films often have this subtle commentary on how complicated it is.
I'm curious how that commentary connects to this poetic style we've been talking about.
This is where it gets really cool, I think. So often he focuses on the fringes of society, the people who feel disillusioned or like they don't belong.
Yeah.
And he uses these cinematic tools, you know, the visuals, the music, the pacing, to weave this commentary that really challenges how we think about American life.
So instead of hitting us over the head with a message, he's subtly inviting us to see things from a different point of view.
Exactly. He's not telling us what to think.
Right.
He's making us question what we think we know.
It's like he's saying, hey, there's more to the story than what you might see at first glance.
Yes. And by doing that, he takes these everyday things, things we might normally overlook, and makes them profound and thought-provoking.
I can definitely see why people describe his work as poetic now. It's subtle, multi-layered, and leaves room for you to bring your own interpretation.
Exactly. It's not about being given all the answers. It's about being drawn into this experience that sticks with you and makes you see the world differently.
I'm ready to dig even deeper. What else can you tell me about how he creates this unique cinematic experience? What are some of his other techniques? You were saying earlier how his films often comment on American society and how he likes to focus on these characters on the fringes.
Right.
It just made me think of how his films often have this like episodic feel, like a bunch of little scenes kind of strung together.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a connection there?
Totally. I think that structure is part of how he messes with traditional storytelling.
Yeah, it's like he's thrown out the rule book. Hollywood wants that neat 3-act structure.
Right. Beginning, middle, end, all tied up in a bow. But Jarmusch is like, nah, life's not like that.
It's more like real life, right?
Exactly. Life's messy. It's full of these detours and random encounters, you know?
Right.
And he gets that feeling by focusing on those little moments, those encounters, those tiny shifts in how we see things.
Yeah.
It's like he's saying, hey, pay attention. There's beauty in the everyday, even if it doesn't fit into some neat box.
Right.
You know?
And even though his films don't have that traditional structure, you still feel this like sense of wholeness.
You do.
Like all those seemingly random pieces are still part of something bigger.
Right.
It's kind of magical.
It is. It's like he trusts us to make those connections, to find the poetry in between the scenes. Yeah.
He's not spelling it out for you.
Right.
He wants you to figure it out, to be a part of the meaning making.
It's so refreshing to watch a film that doesn't feel like it has to explain every single thing.
I know, right?
Like, it's okay to have some ambiguity and let the audience bring their own interpretations to it.
It shows how confident he is as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to break the rules and embrace the power of suggestion.
Okay, and speaking of breaking the rules, let's talk about his use of dialogue. It's often so minimal, almost like it's serves a different purpose than in a traditional film. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on how he uses dialogue?
Yeah, so that's another part of his minimalist thing, right? The dialogue isn't always there to move the plot along.
Yeah.
It's more about revealing character, setting a mood,
Yeah.
or sometimes even highlighting how absurd some situations are.
Right.
You're not going to find a lot of exposition in a Jarmusch film.
No.
He prefers to let the visuals and the characters speak for themselves. I've noticed that there are a lot of scenes where characters are just sitting in silence,
Totally.
just observing each other, and yet those moments are so loaded with meaning. It's like the silence itself is a form of communication.
Right. It's like he understands that silence can be just as powerful as words, sometimes even more so.
Yeah.
It lets the moment breathe.
Yeah.
Lets the audience fill in the blanks, project their own thoughts onto the characters. It's like visual poetry, where the absence of words creates space for a deeper meaning to come through.
And it creates this amazing sense of intimacy.
It does.
Like you're right there with them, eavesdropping on these private moments.
You're part of the conversation, even though they're not saying anything.
Exactly. It's like we're experiencing the poetry of everyday life, those unspoken thoughts and emotions that most films just gloss over.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so we've been talking about these wandering heroes, these outsiders who are searching for something. Why do you think Jarmusch is so drawn to those types of characters? What is it about them that speaks to him?
Good question.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to his whole thing of exploring those different perspectives.
Yeah.
You know, challenging those big narratives that shape how we see the world. He's giving a voice to the people who are often overlooked, the marginalized,
Right.
letting us glimpse their experiences and how they see things.
Yeah.
It's like he's saying, hey, these people matter too, and their stories deserve to be told.
And it's not just about giving them a voice.
Right.
It's about how he portrays them with this real empathy and respect.
Right.
You never feel like he's judging them, even when they're doing things that are kind of messed up.
Totally.
Yeah.
He has this incredible ability to see the humanity in even the most flawed people.
Yeah, and he invites us to do the same. It's a powerful message, really.
It is.
And it's not just about individual characters. It's about the way he portrays entire communities, often those that are overlooked by most filmmakers. Like in Patterson, where the setting is this ordinary working-class town.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Patterson, New Jersey isn't exactly Hollywood material, but Jarmusch finds the beauty in it.
He does.
The poetry in the everyday lives of these people. He's celebrating the ordinary, those little details that make up a life, a community.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder that beauty can be found anywhere if you just look closely enough.
And it's not just about place, it's also about culture. He seems to love blending different cultural influences together, creating this rich mix of sounds and images.
Absolutely. His films are full of references to music, literature, art from all over the world.
Right. It's like he's showing us that the world is a much more interesting place when we're open to those different perspectives and experiences.
It is, and he's not afraid to explore how those cultures bump up against each other.
Yeah.
Like in Ghost Dog, for instance.
Yeah.
You've got this story about a hitman, but it's also this exploration of the samurai code, ancient philosophy, ritual, tradition.
Right.
It's this amazing mix of East and West, ancient and modern, all set against this gritty American city backdrop.
I love that juxtaposition.
Yeah.
It makes you think about those ideas in a whole new way.
Totally. And he does it with a sense of humor and curiosity.
Yeah, he's not afraid to play around with those cultural mashups.
No, he's not.
But there's always a feeling of respect there.
Right.
Like he's genuinely interested in learning from those different cultures.
He is.
It's amazing how he weaves all those diverse elements together so seamlessly. It's like he's creating a whole new language of cinema.
It is a language that's rooted in poetry, music, and the richness of human experience.
Exactly.
And that's what makes his films so captivating. They offer a fresh perspective, a different way of seeing the world, and they invite you to engage with them on so many different levels.
I agree.
Yeah.
We talked about music a little earlier.
Right.
But I think it deserves more attention.
For sure.
Because it's such a vital part of his films, almost like another character.
Yeah, totally.
What are your thoughts on how he uses music to create these cinematic worlds?
Well, first of all, he's a huge music fan. And it really comes through in his work. He's super deliberate with his music choices, often working with musicians he admires.
Right.
And he gives the music space to breathe. You know, it's not just background noise. It's woven into the fabric of the film.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like he's creating a world that you can not only see, but also hear and feel.
Totally.
And he uses music in such a powerful way to evoke specific feelings, memories, to build tension,
Yeah.
or just to set a certain mood, like that scene in Dead Man
Yeah.
with Neil Young's guitar.
I fan that scene. It's haunting. The music is like a physical manifestation of Johnny Depp's character's internal struggles.
It gives me chills just thinking about it.
Yeah.
And he's not limited to just one genre.
No, not at all.
You'll hear blues, hip-hop, even experimental stuff.
Right. It's like he's creating this sonic tapestry that's just as rich and diverse as the visual one.
Exactly.
And a lot of times he uses diegetic music.
Right, the music that's part of the world of the film.
Right, like a band playing in a bar or someone listening to their headphones.
Yeah.
And those moments often become these little pockets of transcendence.
Yeah.
Where the characters in the audience connect through the music.
Uh-huh.
It's like he's breaking down that wall between the film and the viewer, pulling you right into the story.
It speaks to his deep understanding of how music can connect us, move us, make us feel alive.
It's such a core part of his filmmaking, his poetic style, everything. And it's one of the reasons his films stay with you, you know?
Yeah.
Not just because of the images, but because of those sounds, the music that's woven through everything.
It's like he's creating this whole sensory experience, something that engages you on every level.
Yeah.
It's not just watching. It's stepping into a world that he's created for you.
It's a testament to his artistry, his skill.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From his unique narratives to his minimalism to his amazing use of music. It's incredible how it all fits together.
It is.
To create these unforgettable films.
We've talked about his love of outsiders, his ability to find poetry in the most ordinary things, and his commitment to defying expectations.
And we've done it all through the lens of Pasolini's Cinema of Poetry, which has been such a great way to understand Jarmusch's work and his artistry.
Yeah, he's such an interesting filmmaker.
Yeah.
His films are like puzzles.
Right, you can keep watching them and discovering new layers of meaning.
Totally.
So where do we go from here? What should our listeners think about as they explore Jarmusch's films on their own? I think that's what I love about these deep dives. It's like we're giving you a starting point, and then it's up to you to go out and explore Jarmusch's films for yourself.
Yeah.
There's so much to discover.
Oh, yeah.
You could even go deeper into Pasolini's theories and see how they apply to other filmmakers. Or maybe just pick one aspect of Jarmusch's work to focus on, like his use of humor.
Oh, yeah, we didn't even get to talk about that.
Oh, the humor, it's so dry.
You know.
It's so Jarmusch. It's like this whole other layer of poetry, adding this extra dimension to his films.
Yeah, it's great.
So subtle.
It is.
You could also just pick one of the films we talked about and really break it down, like pay attention to the camera work, the editing, the way he uses sound, even silence to create meaning. There's just so much to see.
Oh, there is.
It's like a treasure hunt for film lovers.
Totally.
And that's what's so great about art, right? It's this invitation to engage, to explore, to find your own meaning in it.
It really is.
There's no right or wrong answer.
Right, just different ways of seeing and experiencing the work.
Exactly. It's a conversation, not a lecture.
Yeah.
And Jarmusch's films, with their open endings and those layers of meaning, they really encourage that.
They do. They want you to think for yourself, challenge what you believe, and be surprised.
I love that. It's not about finding the one right interpretation, but about being present, letting the film wash over you, and seeing what speaks to you personally.
Exactly. Trust your gut.
Yeah.
Be open to the experience.
So to wrap up our deep dive into Jim Jarmusch, I think we should leave our listeners with a question to think about as they explore his films.
I like that.
Okay, great. Ready?
Yeah.
If you had to describe Jarmusch's style in just one word, what would it be and why?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to make me think, and hopefully it'll get our listeners thinking too.
I hope so, because it's all about looking beyond the surface, noticing the details, and being open to something different.
Because that's where the real magic is, right? In those subtle moments, those unexpected twists.
Yeah.
That's where Jarmusch's vision really shines through.
He's a true original.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Who knows? Maybe you'll even find your own inner poet along the way.
I love that. Okay, well, that's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Jim Jarmusch.
It's been fun.
It has.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time.
Yeah.
Keep exploring, keep questioning.
And keep finding the poetry in the everyday.
I like it.